to give another round of applause to our dear friends from Florida Fish and Wildlife, City of Miami Police, Miami-Dade County, and to our Marine Patrol, which we know, again, I think it says over 90,000 this year just registered vessels. And I think how they could tell you, those are just the registered ones. We're in Miami, so we know we have a lot of unregistered vessels as well. So they're overworked, and we want to make sure that as we craft this year's budget, we're putting additional funds to make sure we can continue to expand our Marine unit. So whether it be different marinas along the river, in the bay, or wherever it may be in our county, that they're well-staffed and properly funded. Again, it is my pleasure to be here not only to introduce our moderator for this panel, but we've also got Rachel with us, who sits with us on the Biscayne Bay Commission and Watershed Management Board. So it's so great to be here with so many of our colleagues, and it's my honor to introduce to you our moderator for today's panel, Dave Dobler.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I was so thrilled when I heard the resolution that was spearheaded by Commissioner Cabrera and Commissioner Steinberg, working in unison in order to figure out how we make our base safer for both human life and our marine life, right? And so forgive me for reading my notes. First, I'm going to welcome up to the stage my co-moderator, Rachel Streitfeld, Esquire. She sits with me on the Biscayne Bay Watershed Management Advisory Board, and today's meeting has been sunshined, so we are allowed to talk. But we're not talking to each other. We've got some great panelists to come and speak with us. First of all, we've got Ms. Lisa Spadafina from Miami-Dade County. She's our Chief Natural Resource Division in Durham. Oh, Durham Director, Head of Durham. Okay, you need to update your LinkedIn profile, my friend. Okay, and from FWC, we had a change. It was going to be Major Alberto Mazza, who I believe is also here, but we have Lieutenant Colonel Alfredo Escanio. FWC in the house, yes, thank you. All right, and from City of Miami Marine Patrol Commander, we've got Lieutenant Oriel Tamaron. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And from Miami-Dade County Police Department, we've got Sergeant Christopher Garcia. Excellent. I think we have enough room? Here, I'm going to slide down a little bit here. I'll be the one to fall off. When they said, oh, we're only going to give you 6 squares, I'm like, oh, that's going to be perfect. No problem. All right. Okay, so do we have more than one microphone, or are we just going to pass it around? All right. Well, let's see if AV can hand us another microphone back here. All right, so I'm going to first hand this off because ladies first, and also give this to one of the smarter people at the summit. So Rachel, would you like to kick us off with some questions?
I would love to, Dave. Thanks everybody for being here. Thank you everybody for being here. We were joking around just before the panel, and I told our officers that they were the heroes every day, but particularly the heroes of this panel. And poor Lisa at Durham, who's ever heard somebody complain about Durham? Yeah, well, those people don't understand the bigger picture, right? Durham is there to protect our environment, and we are so grateful for the work that you do. And we know that you have to be the bad guy a lot of the time, but it's for a good cause. So thank you for being here. Okay, so Biscayne Bay is really a patchwork of ownership entities and regulatory frameworks and the ABCs of a whole lot of enforcement. Can you guys talk to us, and this will be for all of you, about the different ownership entities on Biscayne Bay and the different regulatory agencies who oversee things like illegal dumping, derelict vessels, jet ski operations, yacht charters, like who's regulating what on the bay? You want to start, or you want me to?
Yeah, I can start that. So Alfredo Escanio, I'm a lieutenant colonel with FWC, overseeing basically from Tampa south. With me here today is our major. He's our commander that actually oversees Miami-Dade County, Collier, and the Keys. So he would have some more intricate knowledge regarding specifics here in Miami-Dade. But if I can give kind of a perspective, we as the state law enforcement, we kind of have a kind of an umbrella of enforcement over the entire county. And then you'll have Miami-Dade County Police Department and their Marine Patrol, who specifically patrols Miami-Dade County waters. And then, of course, the city and municipalities have specific jurisdiction over whether it's City of Miami, who's here with us today, Miami Beach, Coral Gables. So we tend to come in as a state. And then, of course, I'm not talking about federal agencies. Like you would have the Coast Guard, who primarily has search and rescue responsibility versus policing responsibilities. But they do quite a bit helping with search and rescue and whatnot, and including some law enforcement as well. But you guys want to add? Is that kind of hitting on the? Yeah. So we kind of come in support of the county and the cities. Now, in a county like Miami-Dade, and we all know 80,000 plus registered vessels, probably number 2 in the state with, derelict vessels, number 1 and number 2, and that goes back and forth between Miami-Dade County and Monroe County in boating accidents and fatalities. It's an all hands approach. We obviously, none of us here in the law enforcement realm can do it alone. It is absolutely a team effort. And having worked, in almost 27 years, along with, the panel here, we've got a lot of years in law enforcement. They're really, the partnerships that we have in Miami-Dade County are really second to none. And it takes that to be able to do what we do and some. We need more, honestly. So I don't know if that was kind of what you were looking for.
I want to know the difference, just to give people a sense of how confusing it may be, because if someone's coming from out of town and they're renting a boat, they don't know whether they're in Miami Beach or North Bay Village or any other jurisdiction, who's got authority over Haulover and who's got authority over Nixon? Where are we there? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, Haulover is toward the north part of the county. That's primarily Miami-Dade County Marine Patrol will be patrolling that area, because the city of Miami kind of, they're a little further south toward the Miami River, Miami Marine Stadium, Pace Picnic Island, Watson Island. So the north part of the county, specifically the Haulover Sandbar area, Miami-Dade County Police or Marine Patrol will be there. But we have our officers there as well. I mean, our station is right there in North Miami. So our officers that go on patrol from our station, that's the first place that they stop in. And along with other municipalities, you've got Sunny Isles. Sunny Isles is a small Marine Patrol unit, probably 1 or 2 officers, and they go ahead and help out at the sandbar. You've got Bal Harbor, Bay Harbor. They all have, some of them have like a part-time Marine Patrol officer or a full-time officer, and it's a kind of, again, an all hands approach toward helping out at that sandbar. It's a very busy area. And what was your question on the liveries and the rentals? Specifically on it?
Oh, no, it's on the liveries and the rentals is who's regulating the liveries and the rentals. And I think that's you, right? You can talk about that.
I can
Yeah.
talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So hi, everybody. Lisa Spadafina, Durham Director. I would say that it's not one entity. So I think RER, which is our sort of parent department, does play a role in licensing businesses. And as well as all the municipalities have their own process for the businesses depending on where they're originating from. And so I think that from the perspective of opening a business might have a little bit of a disjointed mechanism there, because if you are originating in the city of Miami, you might not be getting a business license from the county, although we are generally a step in that process from Durham's perspective. And that's to ensure that people have operating permits and that they're not doing anything that's related to pollution primarily. But we play a role there. I think on the mooring of vessels or the mooring of structures that are required to have certain permits, I think that crosses probably all the jurisdictions. So that is something that we work frequently with our law enforcement partners, especially if there's a mooring issue or there are structures out there that are anchoring illegally in the bay. But from a regulatory perspective, we issue permits for work in tidal waters. And that comes directly out of Durham.
Let me hit on something. So specifically to the enforcement of liveries, that's us, right? Again, as a team effort, there's state law that regulates liveries. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, and I don't know if Senator Garcia is with us here today, but she championed some legislation that actually added some requirements to the livery statute. So again, as a team effort, we regulate liveries, and there's a whole lot of illegal operations of liveries that go on throughout the whole county. So again, utilizing all of our tools, whether it's the FWC, focusing on state law. A lot of the city and counties, they utilize some of their local ordinances or city, county or city ordinances to address where they are loading people and offloading people. So it's got to be, again, an all hands approach because it's just too much of it going on. If you think about the Miami River, I mean, a lot of the illegal liveries, a lot of them are going up and down the Miami River. That ties into charters, which is a whole other kind of enforcement priority for us. And we tie in the Coast Guard with that. They help with bareboat charters and the other kind of charters. So it's kind of a pretty significant assistance that we get from everybody.
So I moved from South Beach because it's impossible. Testing. I moved down to from South Beach because it's just impossible to paddle in the South Basin safely. And I moved to North Bay Village, and it's much quieter up there. But there's about 15 jet ski rental platforms out there, and I came up with a great idea. I think I'm going to change careers, and I'm going to open up a jet ski business. So I want to put about 20 jet skis on a floating dock that has a little motor because it has to be legitimate, right? It has to be a movable a vessel, right? And I'm just going to anchor it. I'm just going to shuttle people out. What licenses do I need to get? What permission? How do I operate legally? And am I going to be faced with competition from people who are doing it differently, either legally, illegally? Is it a big gray area? Because I understand that I can just, drop in my jet skis from my buddy's house, and I can, I'll pick them up from there. So what do I need to do in order to open up my another jet ski? What's the procedures? What stands in my way from doing it legally?
Yeah. So Dave made that question hard because he's asking how to legally do this. But I think we all know that most operators are not doing this legally, and that's what makes enforcing it hard, right? But if you could talk about, Lisa, how in theory you would open up that business legally.
So in your scenario, you mentioned a whole bunch of different kind of issues.
Hypo.
Well, to take it in pieces, if people are operating a commercial operation like a jet ski charter out of a single family house or something like that, that could be problematic because depending on where you are, if you're on sovereign lands, for instance, you can't have a commercial operation without having a lease from the state. And so if, and we don't have anybody here from the regulatory state side of things, but that would be like a separate proprietary issue with them. But I would say that primarily my understanding is that these jet ski operators are utilizing public boat ramps as their means to getting into the bay. And whether that's because they're using an illegal floating structure that they're sort of saying is a vessel because they put FL numbers on it when we all know it's really not. They're getting into the water somehow. And to me, I know this isn't your question, but the prevention of that is, to me, where it's at and where we're failing to enforce that kind of operation occurring at our public boat ramps. And I know North Bay Village, right next door in the unincorporated area, is Pelican Harbor Marina, which has a boat ramp, and many other ones, Watson Island. I mean, everywhere there's a public boat ramp, people are deploying jet skis and they're basically rendering those as a commercial operation. And so there's a lot of self-governance that happens at those boat ramps. You pay your parking thing. There's probably signs that say you can't do this. You can't do a commercial operation from here. But I don't know that we have the manpower to really enforce those people from ending up out in the middle of the bay and basically operating illegally from start to finish. So if you wanted to open up a jet ski business and be a legitimate business, there are many steps that you would have to take. And I think that's what deters people from maybe even getting that, or maybe it's just not worth it to them to be told that they can't do something.
What are those steps?
Yeah, is there a clear path if I went on to Miami-Dade County's website I said, oh, I want to open this up. Is there a clear step-by-step process in order to make that happen?
Well, if you want it to be legitimate, like I said, you'd have to, in the sovereign land area. So anywhere in the bay that's owned by the state or a public entity, you'd have to have their permission to occupy as a commercial entity. And so to me, that would be kind of like your first step. Where are you going to operate from? And are you legal in those places? And then you'd have to have a business license because everybody in the county has to have a business license, whether it's municipal or from the county. And you'd have to have an operating permit if you're going to be a commercial entity. So these are all the things that you would need to get. But they're challenging because you're asking to do something that inherently is going to be limited by the space that you can occupy. So, is there a clear path? Probably not. You'd need, permits from the county. You'd probably need permits from the city. You might need permits from the state, maybe even from the feds. It depends.
So I was gonna say, so we have a Florida statute that is specific to liveries. It's probably how many? Probably 6 or 8 requirements to include a permit requirement. Now, that was Senator Garcia's legislation, included a permit requirement. There is insurance requirements. There are contractual requirements that you got to spell out on the that are spelled out in Florida statute. I can tell you that again, as a joint effort of maritime partners, our enforcement of liveries has probably quadrupled over the last, especially after COVID. After COVID, we saw a dynamic where people just, went out into the waters to a level that we hadn't seen in 26, 27 years. But again, the work of our partners on livery enforcement now, is there more work to do? Absolutely. I mean, there's again, the amount of boating that we see in Miami-Dade County is second to none, but we have done a tremendous job at addressing the livery issue.
And you have, and I know that we certainly appreciate it, and I know all of you do too. Albert, I see you trying to raise your hand. It's not your time, Albert. Okay, so we know that there are many illegal jet ski operators, and certainly there are illegal charters, and I know because certainly people have come to me asking for representation to help them defend against certain violations. Miami Beach is issuing a lot of violations of single family property owners who are running commercial businesses allegedly from that single family home, right? Whether it's a jet ski operation or a charter or something like that. But particularly in Haulover, there's some very unique vessel-based businesses. We have a vessel-based cocktail bar. There's a vessel-based food truck. I think there's also like a hemp/vape shop that floats around in Haulover. And in Miami, we're famous because people can come from anywhere around the world and become successful here in Miami. We have a culture of creativity and upward mobility, and we want to encourage that. But maybe Biscayne Bay shouldn't be the testing ground for such operations.
All of the above. They're all there.
Sorry, Sergeant Garcia from Miami-Dade Illegal Dumping. I know we've gone out there, we run the gamut when it comes to stuff in Dade County. We do everything from wetlands cases to scrap yards that we've been targeting in Opalaca that have been contaminating canals that lead out to the bay, derelict vessel cases, platform cases. We've been targeting the platform situation. At least off the top of my head, there's 5 or 6 that we've removed in the last couple of months that we've had the people show us photos. They got rid of them. There was one over by Pelican. He was running a full little jet ski operation there. We hit him with a DV, hit him with the platform, and he subsequently took it out. Like Lieutenant Colonel said, as quick as we enforce it, there's a new one to replace it. And there's not enough of us in comparison to them. You're talking about my unit has 11 detectives, 2 sergeants. We cover everything from county line to county line. We work a lot of DV cases with the state, with the city. We do any pollution case that pops up. Our emails getting blown up constantly with stuff from Instagram and only in Dade. And we even had the recent one where it was in the Boca Inlet where they were dumping trash out of the boat. I was like, no, it's not us, it's Palm Beach. So we got in contact with them up there and helped them out. But when it comes to the liveries and the jet ski rounds and all that stuff and the food trucks, We've been asked, what can we do to address it? I know I've spoken with Senator Garcia about it in the past. We're trying to see if we can get someone to sponsor, to get legislation to turn the misdemeanor dumping statute into a misdemeanor exception. Because a lot of times when somebody goes out and they leave a bag of trash in an island or a food truck dumps a bag of trash, we go through a lot of hoops to prove the pollution felony charge that has helped us in the past. So we have to prove with biologists that it's plastic, that it'll kill a turtle, that'll do this. It's like a lot of hoops we go through to prove a pollution case. If we just go with a straight illegal dumping, just that criminal charge, even if we get video sent to us and it says, hey, this guy threw a garbage bag out of the boat, we can't arrest him because it's not an exception and it's not a misdemeanor committed in our presence. So 9 times out of 10, when we get all these videos that they send to us of this guy tossing a bottle out or tossing a boat, we mail them $1,000 civil citation. And 9 times out of 10, it gets, they go, oh, sorry, and they pay, and that might never happen again. And we get contact with them and stuff. But there's little things like that that really tie our hands when it comes to enforcing the litter and pollution side, that the component of this. Now that we started working cases in Opalaca along the river, basically canal that connects straight to the river, there's literal Google map photography. If you look at Lejeune and about Opalaca Boulevard, there's a canal that connects eventually out to the bay. West of Lejeune, it's blue, gray. East of it, it's orange. And it's just a stream of orange that continues to lead out to the bay. It's all the scrap yards and junk yards that are there along that canal. We've now put all our assets over there. Like I said, 11 of us, hundreds of cases a month. And we have guys there doing that now. So like the lieutenant said, Lieutenant Colonel said, we work a lot together. And, you asked about deliveries and this and the platforms. Like he said, there's only so much we can do. And there's like all the ramps that we have, we can't keep track of every ramp. It's impossible. It's a physical impossibility. Whether they're running it out of their house or they're running it out of a ramp or they're running it from a public ramp or they're going through the river and coming out the river. And so, you can't put people at every single post to say, hey, where are you going? And then 9 times out of 10, the way the laws are written and the way things are put in place really restrict us, because a lot of these charters and a lot of these liveries, they tell their people what to say. Hey, you're my cousins. If we get stopped by the cops, you're my cousin. You didn't pay us to take you out. So now good luck proving, oh, he just took out his family that day. Prove that that was a livery. Prove that he charged for that. So you can see how it's a rabbit hole you start going down. Yeah, we'll try to do undercover operations, but then you get restricted with the money, the chartering, how you're going to pay, how you're going to get them out there. Once you get them out there, it's like you can't do every single one at the same time. So what we do out there is a lot as it is. I mean, I know FWC in the city and county, we're constantly out there stopping boats, charters, liveries. I mean, it's constant. It doesn't stop for us. Then factor in the accidents, the dumping, the pollution, the islands. It's nonstop. And now that we're in the summer, and it's going to get really fun now because now everybody's going to go out there. So it doesn't stop for us at all.
Follow-up question about, I don't need the microphone. Oh, okay. All right. The follow-up question, and first of all, thank you. We know you're working. Is it on? It's on. We know you're working so hard. The follow-up question is about, the food boats, the bars, the vape shop. If you're patrolling in Haulover and you see those vessels, are you asking them, hey, do you have a certificate of use from Miami-Dade County to be operating this business? Can we see a copy of your local business tax receipt? You're asking those questions, and typically what's the response that you're getting?
Yeah, so I would say at some point, all of those questions have been asked. And now again, if some illegal actors are addressed, others will pop up. But for example, our officers will focus on state law. Is a boat registered? Do they have, because they still have to abide by all the regulations of a vessel. So are they registered? Do they have their life jackets? Do they have all that stuff? And then at some point, we've brought in folks from Alcoholic Beverage and Tobacco to address underage drinking, because we've had those issues at the sandbar. We've brought in the county or the city to address city or county ordinance issues of occupational license requirements and all that. So I think at some point, all of those issues have been addressed, but it's a constant work in progress is what I would say.
No. A lot of these people, for them, the money that they make is the juice for them is worth the squeeze. They don't care about the charges. They don't care about the fine. They're making, $15,000 in a weekend. They can care less. So we've had that issue where you do constant enforcement. You're constantly tagging the same folks. And I've had people tell me, listen, I know you're doing your job. I understand, but it is what it is. I'm going to keep making my money. I have a family to feed and they're making too good money. So you figure they go out there and you look at all these barges that are selling food or selling whatever it is. They could be selling stuffed animals and they're packed. People are buying everything.
Okay, so that's really informative, right? I mean, it certainly helps me sort of shift my thinking about it a little bit, right? I mean, should we pivot to a partnership effort with these guys who are out there selling food and drinks and whatever the things are to tourists and Miamians who are out there enjoying the water? Maybe there's a collaboration in terms of education about the environment that we could maybe go down that path. What do you-
I was gonna say something about that first, but actually I was gonna mention that I think what Chris said is spot on. My own experience and this is in a meeting I had, and these folks are out here. My staff is out there all the time, coordinating with these people who are, doing illegal things. And the answer from them is, there's probably not much you could do that would stop me from doing this business because we are making too much money. I heard directly from somebody, well, what if we confiscated your jet skis? And they said, we just go buy new ones because it's that lucrative. So how do you get somebody who feels that way to be a partner of the county? And when I say the county, I mean all of us. I just mean everybody who's in the county, and be part of a solution so that everybody can safely be using the bay. I mean, that's the goal, is how do we strike the balance between safely using the bay for people and for wildlife and for the resources while allowing people to enjoy the bay? I mean, that's the question, right?
No, please.
So I mean, part of the challenge is the question is like, okay, how do I operate a legal business? And if the question is, make any sense for us to develop a framework where we can allow people to operate legitimately and tell them, here are the rules, here are the guidelines. This is where, okay, jet skis, these are the areas in which you're allowed to play. Food truck vendors, here, you have to meet the health standards that we have for a regular food truck. I just figure that if it's so complicated to open up a legitimate shop, then the answer is going to be legit. And then we can say, hey, where's your business tax receipt? Where's your certificate of use? Where is your framework, right? That all of the paperwork that you have. What is preventing us from
Put it right in your mouth.
So I do think the framework exists, Dave, but the question you asked me isn't that same question. So if you wanted to operate a jet ski operation out of, say, a county facility, let's just use that as an example, and you went to that county facility and said, hey, I need a commercial slip because I want to do my jet ski operation here. And they have a commercial slip available to you and it costs this much. And this is the process. And we're going to check to make sure you have all of your permits in place. And that roadmap exists. What I'm hearing from people is we don't want to do that. We don't want to occupy a space in a marina where we're going to have to pay somebody to put our facility, I'll call it a facility because that's really what it is. And I've met with people who we said, hey, there are a number of places you can go. Miami Beach Marina, you can go to this marina, that that they all accept commercial vessels. They're not interested in that because it doesn't fit into their business model. And the business model is, I need to do this as cheaply as possible and make as much money as possible, whether the rules are there or not, is kind of what we're hearing from people. So if they want to do it legitimately and go to a place where they're supposed to be, there's rules to be followed, but they don't want to follow the rules. So could we set up these partnerships? We could. We could identify places for people to go, but it does require them to be the other half of the partner, which is to do what's necessary.
Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left, and I'm going to shift gears here because I spoke too long up on the panel up there with the awards, and I'm sorry about that because this is probably one of the most interesting topics because we. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. There we go. So we're going to shift a little bit over to what Commissioner Cabrera and Commissioner Steinberg have been working on, which is the speed zones. I've taken a look at the FWC map, and I went out with a good friend of mine the other day who is an avid boater, been on the water forever, and I'm like, "Hey, man, you got to slow down." He's like, "Why?" Is the way that the speed zones currently mapped, is it too confusing? Is there not enough signage about when the speed zones go down? Is it that we don't have, like motorcycle officers on the street when they want to slow everybody down, they have radar guns? Why is it so complex? And what can we, and does it make any sense what the commissioners are putting forth to slow everybody down? I mean, like, what is the speed limit in Biscayne Bay? It's not a clear-cut answer. It's like cruising speed. I called over into MD to Miami-Dade Marine Patrol. And I'm like, and they're like, oh, well, if the boat is able to safely go that speed, that's a legal speed. But that's like 60 miles an hour in the northern section of the bay. It doesn't seem like that's a very safe speed. So what is the speed limit of Biscayne Bay? And is it reasonable to be reevaluating what our speed zones are?
Yeah.
There you go, Sam.
Well, I will speak about some and then I got to give it over to the Lieutenant Colonel. But yeah, it is confusing. It is confusing very. I came over to the unit approximately 2 years ago and I had a hard time figuring it out. Until I sat down with an actual map. I actually blew it up for my own officers so they could see it every day before they come and they leave. Every single time they come and go from the office so they can see, and then it's all based off interpretation with the idle speed, the slow speed, resume normal activity. Yes, resume normal activity is however you feel comfortable, handling your vessel. Then you have areas where it's like within 1,000 feet of land. How do you estimate the 1,000 feet of land? It's hard. You're here guesstimating. Not all of us are good at math, and my 1,000 feet might be 500 for you when we're guesstimating. So yes, unfortunately, it is very difficult and it's not as clear. And the other thing is, every single time we do put up signs, then you get your boaters that come and hit the signs and knock them down. And then unfortunately, Coast Guard is also backed up, and it takes Coast Guard a while to come and replace some of those signs. As to adding more signs, I would leave it up to the Lieutenant Colonel if that's something feasible.
Yeah, so we have and I want to say it's every other year, we have our boating and waterway section who comes out and replaces signs. And that is based on the, reported damage signs. We come out and replace them. I would have to agree that we get that from the public a lot, that there's a lot of confusion with manatee zones versus boating safety zones versus what's where. I think, spending my whole career here, probably I would say 85% of the Miami-Dade County at some point it's some kind of regulated zone from just especially north of the Rickenbacker Causeway. And that's where we play a role, right? The marine law enforcement community, to get out there and educate the public. And again, it's a big task. And collectively, that's probably one of our main missions. Our officers are out there all the time enforcing the manatee zones, enforcing the boating safety zones. There are some zones that are like a 25 mile an hour. Those are few and far between. There really isn't a speed limit on the water. What governs the operation of a boat is navigational rules, U.S. Coast Guard navigational rules, and they say you must always operate at a safe speed. And that takes, you got to take into consideration a multitude of things. Your capability as a mariner, the capability of your vessel, the conditions of weather, the conditions of other vessel traffic. So it could be that somebody running in the open bay could run a midnight at 70 miles an hour and it's safe. Now that midnight running, between the Julia Toro and the Venetian Causeway, it's not safe because of the high density of and vessels that you have in the area. And we address those issues. I mean, that is the priority of our officers and our partners. But again, I would agree, and I would encourage members of the public. We tell the public all the time, if you see areas that require more signage, that there's signs down, that needs to be reported either to FWC or local authorities, and we do the best we can to go ahead and get those signs replaced.
Do you need me to, do you need me to go?
No.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to mention that I actually met with Senator Garcia on that issue, probably at the end of last year or maybe just before that, about how to get people more educated about the rules of the water, so to speak. And, when you think about it, everybody gets a driver's license, right? Because we expect everyone to learn the rules of the road. But there isn't really anything on the other side that requires people to have a license to captain a boat. And I always say this story, and I'll try to do it very briefly because I know we're totally out of time. But when I first started at Durham, 20 something years ago, I was doing an inspection and I won't tell you the facility, but it was down in Coconut Grove. And I was waiting for the dock master. And while I was waiting in the marina office, I saw some tourists who were renting a vessel from the marina. And aside from getting their credit card information, they provided no other information to these people. And they, told them all the charges that they would have if they didn't bring the boat back in the condition in which they left it. And on their merry way, these people went. And I asked the operator, whoever worked there, I said, you guys don't require them to take a course, not even 5 minutes, nothing. You don't tell them where to go. You don't tell them to where to stay, stay away from. Is there any shallow areas that they should be? And they say, no, we require them to bring the boat back in the same condition. And, usually we have people who run aground. And so the propeller is what we end up having to replace most frequently in these boats. And I thought, so you provide nothing. There's no requirement for someone to say they know how to operate a vessel, how to look at a chart, know what the speed zones are, know where the shoals are, nothing. And so that's one place that I witnessed myself. I'm sure it happens so much more often. And so the education component for boating, it just doesn't exist, except for what our friends at FWC are providing, and then the interactions we have with people on a one-off basis. But having some central place where everybody who's going to get behind the wheel of a vessel knows how to operate, it doesn't exist.
Only in Dade, right? And I'm joking about that, but we're talking about public education. I follow Only in Dade. I don't know how many of you guys do, but I think that partnering with Only in Dade to get a lot of youth, I mean, they've been doing a lot about boater education, especially as we come into summer, ramping that up, especially on pollution and boating activities, speeding, I would say would probably be a good idea. So last question, if resources and limitations did not exist, what would be your number one recommendation to increase safety on the bay? You can.
Start there.
You start. We're not gonna have to talk about this one.
Okay.
When it comes to Miami-Dade, I know unlimited resource, oh, it'd be great. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, budgeting and personnel. Right now, Miami-Dade is running very short at every marina. We're scattered thin. You have an average 3, maybe 4 officers per marina, depending on the marina. So you have people that have days off, so you have 2, and then that's it. So yeah, budgeting and personnel.
Yeah, for me, I would say personnel. With personnel, I can go a long way. I have a whole 12 officers in the entire city of Miami, and we all come out from right here from next door. So I have 12 officers involved in giving them days off. At any point in time, I have 1 boat on the water. I have 26 coastal miles to patrol, including the Miami River. From the Miami River, from the mouth of the river to about approximately 27th Avenue, it takes me 48 minutes going the proper speed. So if I send my 1 boat that I have on duty up those 48 minutes and something happens out here, that boat's not getting back for about an hour to assist anybody. It's unfortunate. So manpower, I think manpower will go a long way for me, for the county. I think for every Marine patrol in the entire state, because then, like I tell my officers now, it's going to get to the point where I want, it's unfortunate, but I want everybody to say, those Miami Marine Patrol guys are like FHP. They give a ticket even to their mom. I'm going to have to get that way, and we are. Last year, we gave 45% more tickets than in 2022. Year to date, as a couple of minutes ago that I did the math before walking over, we're 12% over last year's numbers. And it's all about education, but at the same time, we got to start hitting our Miami folks where it hurts, in their pocket. And these $120 and $140 tickets ain't doing it. So that's another thing that, unfortunately, and I hate it, but we're going to have to start raising these fines and going after them, other than just a slap on the wrist, going after their licenses. Oh, you don't pay for that ticket, you can't drive on the road. So that is very important.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that. Of course, manpower is something that's always a priority for us, and of course, boater education. We're coming up on Safe Boating Week. We got a huge, probably the biggest boating holiday, Memorial Weekend. All of our efforts as an organization are toward boater education, and the more you can educate the boating public, the better off we are. And of course, with what our partners here talked about, personnel. We need more personnel.
I guess I'll round out that question. Echoing everything that my colleagues here are saying, to me, it sounds like manpower is the issue. And that probably is to some degree, but we also don't want to live in a police state, right? So how do we strike that balance between having our law enforcement capable of what they need to do for the really bad actors, right? And then how do we address all the other people who really maybe just be uninformed about what the rules are? And I do think it takes more than just our boating community. They're a part of it. Our businesses, our municipalities, our elected officials, the heads of our commerce chambers, all of those people together really need to have a united front so that people understand how important this is. And all the people that are here, they all care about Biscayne Bay. How do you get the people that don't care about Biscayne Bay or even know to care about Biscayne Bay? Because the targeted audience can't just be the people who are already coming out there. It has to be all the people. And I think that's what's missing maybe from our collaboration is strong, but it could be stronger.
Perfect way to end, I think, right?
Yes.
Thank you all so much. Thank you so much.